Hey everyone, I thought I'd do my John Maxwell early today before I start applying for my jobs. So it's a nice day here in Toronto. I'll go for my walk and get my hours walk in, do my swim, and then I'll be back at my job applications. So today's day 4, it's the thought for today is modeling is only the first step in developing other leaders. So we lead by example, and John Maxwell gives the passage of John 13:12-17, where Jesus washed the disciples' feet, and then he commissions us to go out and to help others. So you don't literally have to wash people's feet, but it's to be there for others, to help, to serve, to use your talents to earn a living. And he gives the points here that I'm going to mention. God desires to continually raise up more leaders. So everybody is in a position, especially in Canada, we're in positions of leadership. It doesn't matter if we are mentoring others or volunteering in the church or working. We're in positions of leadership because we're all contributing to our society here, and hopefully also to the lands of our birth, helping people there and helping them to get access to education, to good values. Now China has a big impact in Africa, just like the British did and the Dutch and the Germans. They are investing in Africa, but with that investment comes their values, comes their ideologies. And just like Britain didn't care about the human rights at the time when they conquered places, China doesn't care about the human rights either. They're going to give that money and they're going to say, this is for you to invest, build bridges, do roads, education. They don't care about the human rights. The sanctions that were put in place were because of human rights abuse. But even with the sanctions, those human rights violations are still taking place. And they take place in many places, even in Canada. We've had situations here in Montreal where somebody has gone into a college and started shooting women just because they were women, because he hated women. So there are things that happen everywhere in the world. It doesn't matter whether it's in Zimbabwe or whether it's in Canada. Most of us who have come here to Canada are in slave wages. And, the possibility of coming up, we hope, we pray, we do what we can. But most of us land up in minimum wage. We land up in jobs that we can't even afford to buy our houses, to build homes, to travel, because we don't have the support that other people have who have been here 2 or 3 generations. So it's very, very hard. If we are fortunate, we might get into companies where people are willing to promote us and help us. But many people are leaving here, going to get jobs in America or Saudi Arabia or somewhere else where they can have better lives and they don't have to work in minimum wage and not be able to make ends meet. So in the same way, I'm applying for jobs in other places because I have the experience and skills now. And I've done my bit. I've mentored people. I've had people shadow me in my jobs, and they are now working as executive assistants. They're working in customer service. So when you do that, the dream or the ideal is that you then get to live or to do work at the next level. Unfortunately for me, I've done all of that, but my wages are pushing me into poverty. And then the second point he brings in is that potential leaders need to be found and recruited. So when Jesus recruited, he didn't go to the universities. He didn't go to the rabbis and say, who can you give me that I can train because I'm a leader in this community? He went to the fishermen. He went to people out who were doing normal jobs. and he said to them, come and follow me, and then he trained them. So they gave up their way of life, at least part of it, because they now were with him and they were doing ministry work, and through that they earned their living. And it's the same thing with us. When we take on new professions or new skills, we give up some of what we did in the past to learn new things. And then others come in, and because they see what we are doing, they think, oh, that must be a good job. I also would like to do that kind of a job. And then they come in and they learn how to do it. And it's the same with volunteering. So we model first, others see us, and then we recruit others. We get others to come and help and join. And they learn, and then we move on to do something else. It's not rocket science, but we also have to be open to moving on and doing other things. And we always get challenged. So, for example, when I took on the customer service work, I didn't realize how much there was behind it, because on a daily basis, you have to check for new policies. You have to check for anything that's affecting the delivery of the goods. It might be the weather, it might be the war. It might be like now people are protesting in Toronto saying, oh, turn back the ships, let the Houthis attack them. But what they're actually doing is bringing down the economy, because if those ships don't reach South Africa or Canada or Australia, people don't get their goods. And then if people don't get their goods, the business can't sell them what people have ordered. And then because they don't have that, customers go elsewhere, and it becomes a downward spiral. So when they are protesting, their intention is to do exactly that. It's to store, like put a wall on the economy and bring the economy down. Because if the economy goes down, how are people going to live, including them? Unless they're going to go and build lives in Palestine or Israel, including them, how are they going to live and function? So it's interesting to see how things get supported and what gets supported, because the protests are allowed in Canada. Peaceful protests are allowed. But yet when we had COVID, when we wanted our churches open, they refused. So they said, no, if you go to the church, we're going to arrest you. So anyway, it's all very interesting to see how life unfolds. And then we pay a price when we follow our leaders. Potential leaders pay a price because we're choosing certain values. We're choosing Christ's values. We're choosing to help others. We're choosing to do what he did. And we're choosing to use our skills and our education to build up our economies and to help people to choose the same values that we have. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day, and I've lost people to suicide. I've lost family members. I've lost friends. I lost a friend in England to suicide. And when I was living there, I used to tell her, like, you should go and talk to a counselor or talk to somebody, because her birth mother was horrible to her and she rejected her. We had gone when she found her. We went to see her, to meet her. She invited us to come to France. And we enjoyed the time there, and, you know, it was nice. We spent 2 or 3 days with her. And we came back to England, and then after about a month, she told her she wanted to come and visit her. And she came to tell her that she just wanted to say goodbye to her because she did her duty and she gave her up and she didn't want her in her life. And when I moved to Canada, I kept in touch with my friend for quite a while. And then my landlord wrote to me to tell me that she committed suicide. So that was sad for me. But, you know, it again comes down to there are options, there are resources available, and we have to choose life. That's up to us when we are going through those periods. And she was a good friend of mine, so it was very hard for me. because I know how much she longed to meet her birth mother and how happy she was, and she was doing very, very well, but that rupturing of that relationship was too much for her. So it's important that we have the systems in place that can help people, and that we take advantage of those systems if we need them. And the last point that he makes is that the greatest reward potential leaders receive for following a godly leader is the power of God in their lives. So for us as Christians, we know that whatever happens or whatever comes to us, God is with us, and God works through us to bring about good and to bring about changes in society. But it doesn't mean that our journeys are easy. Just like the slavery, the people who went through slavery in Egypt, we go through our own slavery here, whether it's debt culture or working overnights, working long hours, because what is there to go back to in Zimbabwe? I tried. I contacted many of the schools in Zimbabwe. I contacted all the private colleges because I wanted to take this John Maxwell and do it there. I contacted the government schools. I wrote to government officials because I wanted to do it for Zimbabwe. And I didn't get the interest that I needed, even with South Africa. I contacted WITS, I contacted colleges here in Canada, but I didn't get the support that I needed. So whatever job I get, I take it and I do it. And I'm a very good executive assistant, and I know that, but it's a matter of perseverance and not giving up and being open to wherever God takes me next. I might not stay here in Toronto. I might be able to go somewhere else. So I have to be open to that. And I have to be open to learning new things the same way that I was open to learning in the contact center. I had to learn a lot. I had to learn about global security policies, about bad actors, about social media, about fraud orders, about anti-money laundering. And every year there's trainings that we had to do. So there was a lot that I had to learn in that job, which I didn't have to learn on my executive assistant roles or receptionist roles. And that's what we have to do. We have to adjust to where the new opportunities are coming from. And we do the same thing with our One campaign. There are many of us who are seasoned, who have been with the campaign for a while now, but there are many new people coming in. So we try to help them. We try to use our skills. And if new people are in the area, like I will go with them, I'll meet the MP with them, introduce them. Sometimes they get put off after they meet the MPs. They're like, is that how they are? I'm not interested. It's like pulling teeth trying to get the aid. And I'm like, well, that's what we have to do. We have to persuade them, because not all of them are fully on board with what we are doing to help Africa or to help in the poorest areas. So that's how it goes. And we have to be intentional in our selecting, recruiting, training, and helping other people, helping other leaders. Because if we're not intentional about it, then other groups come up, because they are intentional. They bring their pain forward, their hurt forward, what they did, how they overcame, how they were resilient, what they accomplished in Canada. So we also have to do that. And if we do that, hopefully things fall into place for us. And the more we can show that we are good citizens of this country, that we're doing everything right, that we're helping, we're sitting on boards, we're taking the opportunities, we're helping in our churches, we're helping to integrate others, all of those things should lead to good paying jobs. Unless Canada doesn't value those things. Maybe they don't value them and they want you to take it and go somewhere else. And if that's the case, I'm open to that too. Because I don't just want a thank you. I don't just want a certificate on my wall. I want a good paying job. I want the financial rewards. And I want that to, from me, to go back into my family and to go back to my aunts and uncles who have been generous with their money, and they've given me money when I needed to study in South Africa, when I needed money for food. So I want that to also go back to them. When I do my shopping for my groceries, I'll buy that $10 bag sometimes for a family in need. Not that anybody has done that for my family, but I will do it. So that I know that there are some people who can't afford the clothes, they can't afford the food. I take my old clothes to St. Vincent de Paul. Again, nobody's done that for me. But I've had my aunts, I've had my uncles, especially my aunt, they've sent me clothes, they've sent me things so that I can try to keep my wardrobe up to date. Because sometimes if your wardrobe is outdated and you go for your interviews, companies don't like that either. So it's a catch-22 when you're born into poverty, because you're always striving to come out of it. And all the education debt and all of that, it's supposed to be what they call good debt, because you're using it to upgrade your skills. So I also want that to change for me, and I want to get the financial rewards now, because I've put in the work, I've put in the time, I've mentored others, I've helped others, I've been diligent, I've achieved my targets. So now I also want that good paying job. And I want people to recognize what I've done and what I've accomplished and what I've contributed to Canada, not to always put me into minimum wage. And even with my John Maxwell, I want to be one of those speakers that gets the speaking engagements, that gets invited to talk, and that gets paid for it. So I hope that this points I've covered helps people. Especially, I know my friends watch my videos, my friends who are in other parts of the world, and I hope it helps you. And that's what we do as John Maxwell speakers. So the takeaway question today is, are you taking deliberate steps to move from modeling leadership to developing leaders?